Welcome to the first module in this series, and that is how do you choose your brand based on domain metrics, and how do you choose a keyword that's going to be your brand, that's going to help your brand go viral, and that's going to establish you as a leader, and that, especially when you're in the toss-up between 2 or 3 or maybe 5 different brands. Now, we work with a lot of startups, and that's just the journey that it takes place, right? I mean, you're thinking of rebranding. Maybe you're going through some funding rounds, and the brand that you initially picked was just to kind of get you rolling in the hustle mode, which is cool, okay? That happens a lot. But now you have 3 to 5. So what do, right? I mean, you can do expensive surveys. You can survey your friends and your family, investors. Hey, what do you think we should do? But I'm going to give you one tip on what you can do using data, using metrics inherently based in the keyword to help you decide which one to go with. And how you do that is the domain name metrics. So there's 4 different fields. The first one is, what is the search volume for that keyword? That tells you the inherent equity that's built into your keyword. Now I'm going to have to backtrack here a second, okay? I want to backtrack because it's important to understand this journey that you're going through. The first thing is that you're trying to create a brand, and a brand is just a symbol, it's a keyword, it's something that differentiates you from the world. That brand then goes to brand positioning. That brand then goes to brand positioning, and brand positioning is something that your brand needs to be aspirational, it needs to be authentic, and it needs to be inspirational, okay? Now, a brand has to have these functions, or it's not going to help you go viral, or you're going to have to spend millions of dollars and invest millions of dollars into that keyword. Let's say it's a made-up world to make it sound right, okay? So either way, you're going to pay for it, okay? You're going to pay because you're going to try to artificially create that, or you're going to pay potentially because it's a brand that's already out there. Now that leads to brand equity, and brand equity is what breathes wind in your sail, and this is what creates loyalty, creates trust, creates consumers that come back. It gives you the ability to create higher profits. Okay, so that's the journey you're going down. So back to the metrics. The first thing you look at is, what is the search for your keyword? Now, the higher the search, it means that there's more brand equity inherently built into that. So if you look at like a quilt.com, hundreds of thousands of searches. Now, if you look at a trunk.com, once again, hundreds of thousands of searches. Now you put that to maybe a fear.com, okay? Still good, but not as many searches, okay? Now obviously those have completely different connotations, or maybe chalkboard.com, completely different connotations. But what I want you to think about here is the equity that's built into that keyword. Now, you take that and you couple that up with CPC, that's what their cost per click, and that's gonna give you, like, are people willing to pay for that? So that's where the equity comes in. So you could have a keyword that gets tons of searches, but because no one's paying for it, it may not be as valuable. There's not as much equity built into that, okay? So you marry those 2 up, and that gives you a number to an equity that people are willing to pay. Now that's also a tool, and these are metrics that we use to figure out what a domain name is valued at. So we actually take a 20% of the search, assuming that this keyword is going to let you get into the top position. We multiply that by the CPC. If the searches per month, you multiply that by 12, and that gives you a rough estimate for what your domain is valued at. We call it the Rosner equation. After Andrew Rosner, who made the options, he helped to invent that. So the other tool you look at is an Overture ranking. It's no longer valid, but if you go to estabot.com, it does have it. They do have some old data in there, and that tells you how many people are typing that in, who just go to that domain name just because they just want to go directly to that domain name. So that's it, 4 minutes. That is how you use, and that is one method you can use to figure out, if you're tied between 5 different brands, how you can determine what brand is the one that's going to have more equity inherently already built into it, an equity that you can then capture. It's like wind in your sail, okay? So if you brand yourself with that keyword, you've already got this massive momentum potentially behind you that you can then just kind of ride on with your keyword. So it's a reason why a carrot.com, awesome domain name, why they spent $600,000 to acquire that. Or a cover.com, they spent $825,000 to acquire their domain. Because they realized what that domain name, what that symbolized for the industry that they're in, what it symbolized for their brand, for their mission, for their very ethos. And each of these founders, each of these companies, they said, we're gonna own that. Hope that was useful. The next two modules, I'm going to give you more information, so just kind of click on over to the next module.